Hello, and welcome to Doctor Who 50 years ago. We've made it to the finale of The Smugglers by Brian Hales, just in case you'd forgotten. I am Ben.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Nick.
And that'll do. Let's get straight into the news. The news.
It is old news, it's not new news. Despite the amount of times he said the word new, it is in fact supremely old news.
On Sunday, 25th of September, 1966, the rivalry between the American film industry and the American television has reached a major turning point. ABC broadcast The Bridge on the River Kwai, and 60 million viewers watched it. The film industry went, "Oh my god, there's money to be had here." This eventually begins a bidding war between the film industry and the television companies, and this will soon propagate across the waves. Yeah, television news. On Monday the 26th of September, the 28 of the 118 members of the United Nations boycotted an address given by South Africa's ambassador, de Villiers, in a protest over the continuing administration of Southwest Africa by the apartheid government. The US, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom and France, as well as Ethiopia and Liberia, remained to listen to de Villiers. So here is the problem of race once again. On Tuesday 27th of September, 2 US Marine jets mistakenly bomb a village in South Vietnam's Quang Ngai province, killing 28 Montagnard civilians and wounding 17 others. The US continues violence and bloodshed in an area that really doesn't want it. The similarities of today. On Wednesday the 28th of September, 2 incidents occur between the British and the Argentinians. Number 1, the extremist group El Condor hijack a DC-4 airplane and divert it to Port Stanley in the Falklands, where the group address a crowd to denounce the rule of the British rule of the islands. After freeing the hostages, the hijackers, stuck in the dirt and unable to refuel the plane, surrendered and were extradited to Argentina, where they received jail terms of 2 to 5 years respectively. And, on that same day, gunmen in Argentina fired at the British ambassador's residence, where Prince Philip was staying, preparing for a dinner held for the diplomats of the British Commonwealth embassies. Another extremist group who were planning to kidnap Prince Philip, with the ransom being the Falkland Islands again. So here is international relations going swimmingly.
One thing I'll point out about this, that the people in the Falklands, they all believe that they target the royalty, whereas people who are more in touch with England, the IRA, they always target Thatcher 10 years later. So the word hasn't really spread so much to the more far-flung nations of the world. Well, royalty aren't quite as big of a thing anymore. They're still targeting those, what they believe to be the pinnacles of British society, as opposed to what actually is at this point.
It's still a symbolic attack, though.
Oh, it definitely is. But it shows that 10 years later they go for more political figures and no one tries really to bomb the monarchy.
One last thing on the imperialist colony aspect. On Friday the 30th of September, the Republic of Botswana was granted independence from the United Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
So again, continuing the general decline that was occurring at the time of Britain's place in the world.
I doubt it was given. I doubt the public had a furore. This was probably a carefully planned Independence Day.
Oh yeah, no,
Nothing
but
to
still,
the contrary I could find. And that was the news 50 years ago.
Anyway, I guess we should get on to what we thought of this episode.
Did any of us not dislike this episode?
I found it meh at best.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I don't care about it.
hmm I'd like to say that when it got to 8 minutes in, I looked for the time code because I was making notes. I didn't realise it was 8 minutes in. I thought it was more like 4 minutes in or something.
Ooh, blimey.
So, this episode for me, definitely the best of the lot. As terrible as it is, it's definitely
Things
okay.
were happening, weren't they? Things were occurring.
Were they? We must play for time, my boy. That was the entire episode.
Well, I mean, yeah, that annoyed me. Like, the Doctor's like, well, Ben's like, hey, let's go to the TARDIS now. And the Doctor's like, no, I because plot reasons, I have to stay. Because otherwise, that would, that'd be the end. Episode 4 wouldn't need to happen.
It's the second time he's pulled that trick, Brian Hales, in this serial.
Oh, it's just, like, the ending's all a bit sudden as well. Like, they suddenly get, it all goes their way, and then it's like, straight back to TARDIS. Oh, that's the end.
That's actually what I wrote my really long, insightful paragraph about. It's very interesting. When it gets to the bit in the episode, that's when I'll say it.
Okay.
Hold it back then.
That's some X Factor style teasing later in the episode for you viewers. Now that we're massive on the internet, we need to bring in all of these, fat cat corporate techniques to really
so
hype it all up.
Please bear with us and try to contain your hype. I know I am.
So Ben, what did you think of it?
It's been 24 hours or so since I have watched it, and unlike the last 3 episodes, I'm struggling to remember much.
It made no impact on me. I've forgotten vast chunks of it already, and I only watched it half an hour ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that the resolution of the cliffhanger was rubbish, because there wasn't a resolution at all. Yeah, the ending's rubbish. I don't like that the TARDIS is cold, apparently, when they're in the Arctic.
No, I don't like that.
That's silly.
I mean, they were literally writing it as fast as they possibly can before they could go on their summer holidays.
Well, I guess we should get on to what actually happened and how someone from 1966 would have perceived this.
And how this episode would be made differently if it was made in 2016.
So, as we said before, the cliffhanger resolution is garbled at best. I actually paused the video, the legit video, 3 times, re-watching the subtitles to understand what was going on. I didn't realise Cherub had a gun and had shot the Squire, and I was like, what? I don't remember that a week ago.
No, he did. That was the cliffhanger, that Cherub shot someone, but you didn't know who.
Yes, but Squire had a gun.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he had
Oh.
blunderbuss. I thought he'd have shot it, but apparently Cherub shot the Squire. Hence why he's holding his arm for 24 minutes. It really confused me, which is not a way to resolve a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Also,
No, Cooper's the one with the pistol.
No, Cooper's the one with the knife in his back and dead. Unless he shot Cooper.
Cherub.
Cooper
Cherub.
is dead.
Squire, even.
Cherub has a gun, then.
Yeah, but so he also has a knife and a gun? Where did he get a gun?
No, he's
plot.
a pirate.
It's lost in time. It's lost in time.
What a boring resolution. Character we don't care about isn't even killed. He's wounded.
Yes.
In a way that isn't that serious either, because it's just his arm.
And then he continues to wallow in his self-pity. I finally
Yeah.
went off Paul Whitson Jones this episode.
And it induces an about face turn in like his whole 180 U-turn thing, like,
Yeah.
which makes no sense. He's back to being all moralistic and a good guy.
Realization dawns when he gets a bullet in the shoulder.
Yeah, suddenly now he believes in the rubbish curse that only brought up this episode. I don't remember it being in the thing before.
Plot contrivance again.
Yeah. There's just no sense of drama to any of this. The stakes are pretty much the same as they were at the cliffhanger last week. Nothing's really changed or developed.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's again the continuation of a scene.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Nobody in any time period could look at that and think there's anything to it. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
Cannot describe it as thrilling.
No.
And I don't think people at the time would have been that impressed by it.
No.
And in fact, something might have thought it was a bit too violent, that cliffhanger resolution scene.
No censor footage from 90% of the fights in this episode. Most of the violence and the censor footage comes from episode 1. So the pacing there, in terms of everything building up throughout the story, is all off.
Oh, pirates start fighting each other because they're greedy. Wow, you're so original.
We're filling up the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, maybe, I was watching it thinking, maybe if some like 4-year-old in 1966 might have enjoyed this episode because of the pirates exchanging stupid insults and the sword fights and whatever, or the sword fight. But anyone older than that wouldn't have any enjoyment of this.
No.
And so, if this episode had a soundtrack, the theme to Dick Barton's Special Agent would play as Blake continues to ride through stock footage towards the episode. It takes him some time.
Yeah. This episode has no music.
At all.
No. And I noticed that mostly at the opening of the tomb, when I figured there should be like some music or something. And in New Who, that just wouldn't happen. I don't think it really works in the episode's favour, because it means that all you have, in terms of the sound, is this hokey fake dialogue of like fake oldie English.
And it makes an already dry episode even drier, because it's just so... There's not even the music to kind of get the atmosphere going.
No.
Because we don't have the visuals, we don't have that atmosphere at all. So there is literally no atmosphere for us doing now.
There's nothing to drive the plot forward, nothing at all. Even the Quatermass experiment has more music than this. And that was made in vastly inferior circumstances 13 years prior.
Yes.
Oof. The pirates have come, and they have come to raid the church, the treasure, what the Squire showed you in inexplicable detail last episode. And Pike and his band of merry pirates, each one of them conflicting to the stereotype, grab the loot, and whilst these normal pirates with no speaking roles grab the loot, Pike creeps away to the crypt in order to get even more loot from them.
But you can't even say, when the pirates get drunk, it's like damning the working class or whatever, because that's such a cliche and stereotype of pirates that you can't even find that subtext to it. Because it's so lazy.
So Pike confronts Cherub and the Doctor and proceeds to destroy all of Cherub's plans by making him force his hand and then dueling him. Because pirates betray other pirates.
You could read it into, like working class rising up against like, the upper class, but the thing is, or like middle class or whatever, but the
again,
thing is...
pirates being greedy.
Yeah, I don't even feel like you could read that at all. It's just so lazy.
They're perceived as so dumb, they can't believe, like, they don't work out that Polly is a girl. That's something. Like, they're sort of subhuman in that way.
Yeah, it's almost commenting on having this weird idea that because she was wearing trousers, this is his way of portraying how the past was even worse towards women than the world in 1966.
Point of order, she's the only female in this serial.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's true. That right there that's 1960s sexism for you.
Oh, yes. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you. We have some breaking news from 50 years ago. Let's turn over to our film department to discover what Blake is doing. He's still riding on a horse. Thank you very much, and back to the episode.
I actually have something to say about this.
Aye.
Yeah. There is some attempt at pacing.
Go on.
Okay, what Brian Hales has done is that, as I was watching it, the scene with the Doctor ended with, "Well, let me tell you."
Oh,
cut.
yes.
And it cut to Blake setting up his thing, so you knew that all of that was in motion. And then during that bit, tension was supposed to be being built for when you finally found out what the Doctor's plan was, and it didn't work.
It completely skipped it.
Yeah, but I thought that's what he was going to do, and so I wrote a little note saying, "Well done, Brian Hales. You really tried."
Oh no. Is that crossed out now?
Well, the note afterwards said it doesn't work, so it just cuts to dullness from dullness. But there is some attempt at a dramatic pace.
In regards to the fight, seeing as nothing's cut, this is exactly the sort of thing that I reckon a lot of parents would be like, this is exactly what I want my children to be watching. Some swashbuckling pirates dueling with cutlasses and not cutting each other or killing each other.
Not that they were watching it.
Well, no, but, you know, there wouldn't be any complaints about how terrible the violence is in this one or whatever.
I can't imagine this episode having amazing fight choreography. I very much think it'll be like the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan in A New Hope, where they're awkwardly hitting each other.
Yeah.
It would look awkward because of the constraints of the studio, I will agree, but one thing you're going to have to think of is that this was done by Derek Ware and his stunt team Havoc.
Oh, yes, that's true. Won't you tell us who those people are, Ben?
Derek Ware is a stuntman who saw that he could get some work on Doctor Who back from 1963, in fact, in the first episode. And in 1965, he formed Havoc, which is basically a union of stunt actors that they can do stunts in various television and film programs and get some money and not die by doing stunts. And they were contracted for this fight, playing both the soldiers and the pirates in the climactic battle scene, which is coming, honest.
Yeah.
But beforehand, everything gets to a climax in the crypt between Pike and the Doctor, for they are the only ones left standing, it seems. Sky's there too, honest. Some weird compromise talks between Pike and the Doctor. Doctor takes no money, and there's this non-existent village. And then Pike finally finds where the treasure is, and proceeds to eat the entire churchyard, the entire scenery, and the whole of the building it was recorded in. Oh my god, the acting. Oh. Oh my goodness me. Is that what it is? Yes! It's the ending of this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Blake's arrived! Whoa, boy. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, my God.
I was doing
Yes,
so well.
Blake has finally arrived, and because the pirates are drunk, because they're idiot pirates, they get massacred and kicked into the churchyard and the crypt. Meanwhile, Ben and Polly are in the secret tunnel. That exists. They've been hit by pirates, but that didn't happen. That's just non-existent tension that gets done.
It ends on a joke. I think it is the only joke, I think, in the whole serial. I thought for a bit and couldn't think of any others.
Yes,
Ben says to Polly, Polly, put the kettle on. Which is not a feminist thing. It's referring to the horrible song, Polly, put the kettle on, we'll all have tea. That's the joke.
Yuck.
This pincer movement that Blake creates, pushing the pirates and Pike to be in the same place at the same time, so that they can all die horribly. Pike tries to kill the Doctor, but the Squire stops him from doing that, so Blake can get a clear shot, and Pike takes forever to die, whilst continuing to eat ham. Bless him. Well done.
That's actually what my paragraph is about. The entire ending to this episode. So, such flag-waving idealism against the old-fashioned story makes the strength of the British seem quaint and outdated, like a relic from days gone by, just as much as the rest of the 17th century backdrop it inhabits. And so, basically, what I was trying to say is that it is so quaint that the King's militia can come in and save the day that seems so outdated nowadays and must have seemed really scarily outdated back in the 60s when the British Empire was collapsing. The strength of the British Empire being able to come in and save the day in such an idealistic utopian way must have, like, a lot of people watching this in 1966 would have known about the strength of the British Empire first hand, or at least second hand. So the fact that they would think of it as such an idealistic silliness must have been a lot more hard-hitting for them. They would be able to see for themselves how far the British Empire had collapsed in the past 40, 50 years.
So yeah, everybody evil or morally grey evil is now dead, and the Doctor takes this opportunity to run back to the TARDIS, so he can quote get off with Ben and Polly.
Oh.
Don't.
Yeah, that happens. Godspeed, old man. Thank you, Blake. Oh, and the episode's over. Hooray.
Yeah, we literally have a 2-second TARDIS scene just to establish, oh look,
We've let
it's next week's episode. Hooray!
Okay, so what I thought would be a good idea is if we all gave it, the serial as a whole, a personal rating each, and then each gave it a rating out of 10 what we think that someone in 1966 would give it as a whole. I decided this serial, on the whole, 4 out of 10. I thought it ranged between boring to slow, with nothing either intentionally or unintentionally funny or exciting in between. Someone in 1966, I think, would think it was even more boring, and I gave them a 3.
my personal rating would be a 3 out of 10 as a forgettable serial that was put there to fill 4 weeks of broadcast time. And I think for somebody in 1966, all 4 million of them, would rate it as 4 out of 10, and I would love to know how many people turned over during the broadcast of this episode. Not that we'll ever have figures for it, because I think they'd see it as forgettable too.
Me, I would go with 3 out of 10. I remember almost nothing of this. I'm trying to think about previous episodes. And again, the only thing that really comes to mind is the Doctor being carried in a funny way by that pirate in episode 1, I think.
Oh yeah, good times. That was a long time ago now.
Yeah. I don't care about this episode. I'm glad it's lost. Well done, Brian Hales, for having one of your episodes get lost. Isn't that nice? And then I would say, yeah, in the 60s, I reckon I'm kind of agreeing with Ben here. Either 4, maybe a 5, because... So for us, the pacing is really, really bad, and it's really boring. But you've got to remember, TV back then was a lot slower. So this wouldn't be quite so egregious in terms of the slowness of it, I feel.
I think I can provide some context for you about the Smugglers, how it was created, how it was received, and a post-mortem, as it were.
We're not all wrong, are we? That's not your thing. You're not going to prove us all wrong.
I don't think so. It depends.
Nice.
It depends how you react.
Okay.
So, following the Celestial Toymaker, Brian Hales submitted some further storylines, including the Nazis, which was shelved, thankfully. The Smugglers was written within a fortnight. Take that as you will. Hales was never happy with the idea of historicals. It was rapidly scheduled for production, and was chosen over some weird Hounds of Time script, which I'm not even going to go into. The Smugglers went alongside ATV London's Weaver's Green and Opportunity Knocks on various other regions of ITV. This was strong competition, and this accounts for the small ratings, according to Doctor Who: The Complete History. The higher-ups in the BBC said that Hartnell was giving a more light-hearted performance, having learnt that he was coming out of the show. And now, as a post-mortem, there are a few countries that this serial was sold overseas. The most famous being Australia, who aired it in May to June 1967, and they made those 4 cuts to make it, broadcastable to television. Barbados and Zambia aired it in 1968, New Zealand aired it in 1969, and so did Singapore in 1972. It was still being offered for sale in 1974, even though the original videotapes had been junked. The Australian reprints of the film copies returned to the BBC in 1975 and had been finally junked by 1977. And thus ended the life of the Smugglers. I hope you enjoyed us talking about it and moaning about it for 4 solid weeks. Because that's what I'm pretty sure that Children in the Playground did so in 1966.
One thing I will say is it's made me infinite. I didn't realise I could be actually excited to watch The 10th Planet.
Yes, that's true.
That at least is interesting, even if it's not the most thrilling.
Yeah.
There's still something interesting going on. The Cybermen are actually interesting villains, as opposed to Captain Pike, who's just a cardboard cutout.
Yeah. So we will be swapping the cardboard for sock heads with next week's The 10th Planet episode 1, and even then, it won't be for long. Thank you very much for watching. You can find us on Blogspot, which also redirects to iTunes. That's the important thing. We're on iTunes now. Please like, comment and subscribe on either that or the YouTube channel, which you are watching right now, I'm probably assuming. So yes, thank you very much for watching and listening. I have been Ben.
I have been Luke.
I have been Nick.
Thank you, and goodbye.